Welcome to Flow with the Grow. I'm your host, Sophia, a health and fitness professional, positivity distributor, and a real-life human being with real-life challenges. Every Tuesday, you will hear my honest conversations on the day-to-day highs and lows that life teaches us, as well as bring you actionable tips that you can implement to improve your health and wellness journey. This podcast will empower you to flow with the inevitable setbacks of life. You will learn what it means to flow with the grow, see through a lens of optimism, and navigate your way to living your best life. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Now let's jump into your daily dose of positivity and growth. Hi, what is up? I'm Sophia, your host, if you don't know, of Flow with the Grow podcast. And today I'm going to talk about different coaching cues and lessons that I have learned being a trainer. So this is different from a previous episode that I did. I talked more about life lessons that I learned from training. And today I'm going to share specific coaching cues and more so concepts and perspectives that I've learned. And you can use this for yourself in your own workouts, or you can also use these tips if you are a trainer or a coach. And by the way, when I say trainer and coach, they are interchangeable when I talk about them during this episode. So if you are a trainer or a coach, you can use you can use these tips when you are training someone else, whether you have been training for a long time, you're an aspiring trainer, you are in the pursuit of learning more, maybe becoming certified and going to be doing it. Maybe you're just starting, wherever you are at in your journey. I think one of these at least can help you. And I'm going to explain more so why I'm going to be sharing these here in a little bit. You can also be on the lookout or have your ears open on the podcast for some new things coming your way. I am pretty stoked about it, for not just the podcast, but to help you in your pursuit of becoming healthier. Maybe it's working out wise, so workouts or meal plans, recipes, maybe mindset, and something cool that I'm going to try hopefully shortly, like in a month, maybe less, in a few weeks. I don't know. We'll see. I will keep you in the loop. Don't worry. But for now, just know that more is coming. And I must be honest, it's not been easy by any means. Like my mind, I have so many things going through my mind all the time, like ideas. And when I get set on an idea, then I get more things coming to my mind, and then I kind of feel scattered brained. I feel like my brain is just all over the place. And Kiana has been helping me kind of organize my thoughts, and I'm really trying to just focus on one thing at a time, and I'm learning, but I'm also very excited for what's to come. Okay, on to the episode topic for today. And by the way, at the very end of the episode, I'm going to share some advice, meaning for if you are considering becoming a trainer. And the reason I want to put this in here is because I actually had someone reach out to me who asked me for my advice. She was asked to train at her gym that she's going to, and she wasn't really sure. She thought maybe she would like it, but she's also a full-time student and has another part-time job, and so she just kind of wanted my insight and advice. So for anyone who is in that position, I'm going to share that at the very end. So make sure to stay for that, or pause it, come back and listen to that if that is you. I'm going to first start by saying that I'm in no way stating that these tips I'm going to share are the end all, be all. I am not saying that I know everything when it comes to training and tips for coaching cues or how to train or what to do when you're training people. In fact, I'd say that what I know is very minimal in comparison to a lot of trainers who have more experience than me and more expertise and more knowledge. But these are things that I have learned along the way, things that I was never told when I first started. And looking back, I wouldn't say I wish someone told me these things, because I learned them through trial and error and through messing up and through being not the best trainer, for messing up, for being shitty, for sucking. But these are things that I feel like have made an impact in my training career or my experience. I feel like they've made an impact for the better in how I train people and with helping people connect to their bodies better and helping people to make their workouts just a little bit more effective. And like I said, you can use this for yourself when you're coming or when you are doing workouts, or you can use this when you are helping someone else, or maybe you are training someone, or you're going to be training someone in the future. Or maybe it's a goal that you have to possibly maybe train. When I started training at Anytime Fitness, this was about 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years, 6 years as of this January, probably January is 6 years. Like I said, these are things I've learned along the way in my past 5.5 years of training. When I started training, I had zero experience or really any knowledge on how to train. I was nervous and shaky, but I don't want to say faked it until I made it. You know the saying, fake it till you make it. But more so, I acted it until I became it. I acted it until I was it. Meaning, I may have come off as confident and high energy. I tried to be. I was just doing that. But on the inside, I was nervous. I was scared. As comes with anything, really. If we start something new, it's going to be uncomfortable. We're not used to it. It is not our norm. Therefore, it is normal to feel nervous, to feel scared, to feel uncomfy. I'm going to get into this as a tip in a little bit here, but for me, I just knew that I had to bring the energy and be the confidence that I wanted to entail, that I envisioned myself having, and the confidence that I wanted others to see and feel, even if I didn't fully feel confident right away in what I was doing. I also did an episode with Rachel Prairie, who is the Anytime Fitness programming director or creator. I don't know. I don't remember exactly her position, but she creates the workouts for all of Anytime Fitness. And she said something to me that really stuck out and has stayed with me this entire time from that moment that I heard that. And that was one of the biggest pieces of advice that she would give to me and other trainers, because I believe in the episode I asked what is a big piece of advice or some advice that you would give to other trainers and coaches. And that advice was collaboration, to collaborate with other trainers and coaches. It's one of the best tools that as a coach we can do, and we can learn from each other. How profound and impactful and valuable and useful can that be to any and all trainers out there, rather than comparing or showing off how much more we potentially know than someone else. When we raise others up, we raise ourselves up. And when we ourselves stay open-minded to not always being the one to know the most or the one that has to know the most, then we open a window of opportunity to learn more and more. We're not stuck in our ways. We're not closed-minded. You don't know what you don't know until you become open-minded to new and different perspectives. So this episode is meant to serve as a resource for new insight and as a different perspective than your own, or a new perspective that you've never had or heard before. Every single time that I watch or listen to a trainer train or explain a particular exercise, 99.9% of the time, I will learn something. I've learned that we all explain things differently. We all learn things from other people. And I'll hear a cue that I've never heard before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. I've never thought to explain it this way, or I never tried that for myself. Every single trainer brings their own style, their own unique way of training. And with that comes their own unique way of explaining things. So like I said before, whether you are a new trainer, you're experienced, you're an aspiring trainer, you have been thinking about it for a while, you're in pursuit and you're doing that certification, I want to encourage you to open your mind and your ears in today's episode. Maybe there will be one or two things that I say that will be new or an aha moment that you can take with you into your training career or just in your own health and fitness journey. And before I start, I also want to encourage you to, if you do hear something, or you learn one or two things, or maybe this episode helped you in some way, I would encourage you to share it with someone else. Share it with someone who is a trainer that you know of, or maybe someone who is trying to work out more and they want to learn things. Or maybe it's just putting it up on your stories on social media. That way we can all have this collaboration via social media. That is the power of social media in one way. All right, so my Instagram is @Sophia_Dawn41. I'd love it if you would tag me in that and let me know if these were helpful for you, or if maybe you know of one or two things yourself that you would add to this list. Now, there's many out there, and I really tried keeping it small, a smaller list, but I found all of these to be very important and ones that have really stuck out to me the most. Number 1, be it until you are it, or act it until you become it. Act it as if you already are it, or act as if until you are. Okay, this might sound kind of confusing. I just said that in a wide variety of ways, but what I mean by this is the more you do something, the better you get at it. And it's not that you're pretending. It's kind of like if you've ever heard of manifestation. The more you visualize something more and more, our subconscious mind doesn't know what's real and what's not. So eventually you will manifest that thing into your life, or it will happen. Not saying that it'll happen right away, but the more that you think about it and do it and act as if, the more likely you are that's going to come into fruition and is going to be your reality. Same thing is true with training. So putting this into perspective here, I remember when I first started training, and this kind of is going back to in the very beginning what I was talking about, I wasn't super confident in my abilities as a trainer, but I didn't think about that. Like, it wasn't an option for me to think about that, because first of all, I knew that this is what I wanted to do, was to train. I was excited about it. And I just knew that I just had to bring energy. I just had to bring the energy and give them a good experience. I had to act as if I was confident, even though maybe I wasn't confident. I had to realize and tell myself that I am the authority here. I am the fitness expert here. Because the person I'm training, most likely they're not going to know. And if I'm second guessing the exercise, or I'm second guessing anything, then they're going to second guess their belief in me and my capabilities to help them. So it was not an option for me. I had to act as if I was the authority until I really truly felt and believed it that I was. To the person listening to this, if you're going to be a trainer, you have to know and trust that you are the authority. You are the doctor of fitness. People come to us for exercise and fitness tips and advice, just like someone will go to an eye doctor for advice and tips and whatever else and knowledge for their eyes. They need a prescription. Well, most people need a prescription for fitness too. So you are the doctor of fitness. You have to be the authority. You have to believe that. You have to act it, even if you don't necessarily believe it right away. Because then the more that you do that, the more that you'll believe it, the more that you'll become more confident, and the more that you're going to learn along the way anyway. So with that will come confidence. Number 2, you may have heard this before, but you must be willing to kind of maybe suck at first. Be willing to not be perfect. Take mental note. What went wrong? What did the client not understand and why? When or what did you do or feel not confident with? Was there a question that you didn't know? Reflect on that session with the group of people or the one person that you trained and reflect on what you could have done better. What could you have done differently? And take that with you into your next session. Number 3, man, I do wish someone would have told me this. It is 100% okay to tell a client or a member or a person that you don't know the answer to a specific question. If someone asks you something, it is 100% okay for you to say, I don't know, but I will find out. That is acceptable. People don't expect you to know everything, or at least they shouldn't. People are usually very understanding. And you're human too, but you can thank them for that question and say, you know what, that's a really great question. I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. And then do what you got to do and get back to them. Number 4. Oh my goodness, I love this one. This one is huge. This one will make a profound impact and difference, I believe, in the way that you train and how you train. Because the way you train and how you train matters. And what also matters is posture and movement. Personally, I knew for myself that I would hate if I was being trained by someone and they stood in one spot just staring at me, or maybe they were standing in one spot and looking around the room. I also knew for myself that I don't like just standing still anyways, like I just have to be moving. I knew that when I tried standing still, just looking at the person, I felt uncomfortable, I felt awkward, and I knew that if someone else was training me, just staring at me in one spot, it would feel uncomfortable and awkward. So I assumed the same would be true for my clients. I also found that I wanted to see all angles of the person doing an exercise so I could fully see their bodies and make adjustments as needed. I could fully understand how their body was moving. Because when you're watching someone and you can only see one angle, you're not seeing all of them. You're not seeing the entire movement, and that matters. I later realized and was actually told by clients that people liked that. They liked it because it brought more energy. I wasn't just standing there slouched with my arms crossed, which is a whole other thing. I would encourage you to not have your arms crossed or hands on your hips. Personally, I just like to make sure that I have good posture. My shoulders are rolled back. Maybe I'm just holding my hands together in one spot, or I'm moving them around as I'm encouraging people and showing them different exercises or form or talking to them, whatever it may be. But I realized, and people told me that it brought higher energy. So it changed the energy, the dynamic of the room and the workout for the person, but also it showed that I truly cared. I truly cared about their form, that they were doing it right. They felt confident in me because they felt like I truly was watching them, watching their form. And they knew that if they weren't doing something right, I would tell them and that we would stop the exercise and I would change whatever it was that needed to be changed. So that's just something to consider while you're training. Posture and movement and where your hands are at, your arms, how's your body language. Body language is huge. It is that nonverbal communication. Number 5, you might find that people have imbalances. In fact, you might find that you have an imbalance yourself, meaning when you're doing an exercise, the left side is harder to push up than the right. If you're doing, let's say, an overhead press, the left arm is harder to press overhead than the right because your left side is just weaker. I've learned that a really great way to combat that and to help someone is to not do barbell things, even though, yes, barbell can be a great exercise, especially for those compound lifts. But if someone has an imbalance, by having them do the straight bar or a barbell, they're going to overcompensate with the other hand, the other arm or leg, whatever it is. So switching it out and doing either dumbbells or kettlebells and actually starting with the side that's weaker. So let's say it's a single arm overhead press or Bulgarian split squat. Whichever side is weaker, start with that. And when you do use dumbbells, drop the weight to the weight of the weaker arm. It does not make sense to have someone do a single arm overhead press in their right hand, their right arm with maybe a 25 dumbbell, and their left side is weaker, so they drop down to maybe 15 pounds, a 15-pound dumbbell. It doesn't make sense to have them continuously use the right arm with the 25 and the left arm with that 15-pound, because then the imbalance is not going to correct itself. So you would drop down to the 15-pound dumbbell for both arms, even though the right side could probably lift heavier. Number 6, I know I've said this in a previous episode. I think it was a Fit Tips episode that I did. But this one, I think it has been very useful for myself and also clients. And it's something that a lot of people don't think about doing. But when you're doing single-sided lifts or exercises, squeeze the opposite fist or the opposite hand or the opposite arm. And not or, I mean, and. Squeeze the fist, the arm, the hand, all of it. So for example, if you could picture doing maybe a single leg RDL or a single arm overhead press, the opposite hand that does not have the weight, have either you or your client squeeze that entire arm. Don't hunch your shoulders up. Keep those down, but squeezing the fist, creating tension in that arm that does not have the weight. Number one, it's going to help with balance. Number two, you are teaching your muscles to tense and squeeze without a weight. So that way, when you do have a weight in the arm, you are maximizing that lift and you are squeezing your muscles. And also it's creating that mind to muscle connection. It's creating mind to muscle connection without the weight because you're thinking about squeezing that arm. But also when you put the weight in that hand and squeezing it, it is creating that mind to muscle connection as well. There's also this component of you're still working your muscle. I actually listened to a podcast episode that had a really interesting fact. And it was in a study that was done. And I cannot remember exactly. I'll have to look this up because I just remembered this. But she was saying how there was a study done with people who were doing bicep curls with a weight and people doing bicep curls with no weights but not thinking about squeezing their muscles, and another group where they were squeezing their muscles, doing the bicep curl, but did not have the weight. And over a certain amount of time, the people with the weight gained X amount of muscle mass, whatever it was. The people without the weight obviously didn't gain anything, but the people without a weight, but was thinking about squeezing their biceps and their muscles, did increase their muscle mass by a certain percent. And that was mind-blowing, but also not, because when you're squeezing, tensing your muscles, it's working the muscles still. So keep that in mind. I know that when bodybuilders, so Kiana, she just did her first show and she's always practicing posing, but it takes work. It's exhausting and it wears your muscles out. It wears your body out. And so it is still doing something. And I would encourage you to give it a try. Try it without squeezing it and then try it while squeezing your arm and make note of the difference. Number 7, the importance of grounding your body, thinking about your feet, as well as tucking your tailbone and squeezing your core. So good posture while you were doing any exercise, any lift. I remember training a couple times in my beginning years, and there would be people off to kind of one side of their body. Maybe they were on one side of their hip more or their foot more. And to me, I couldn't stand looking, like I just felt like it did not look comfortable or that it didn't seem right. So I corrected them. Like I just wanted them to have everything in alignment. So really alignment is the tip here, like to make sure that their bodies are in alignment and that they are thinking about squeezing their core as well as creating tension in their body and tucking their tailbone. So that way their butt isn't sticking out and their back is not arching. All of these things matter when working out. Things that maybe you don't ever really think about. Number 8, the importance of explaining what something is and explaining why they're doing it and the benefits. So this is something known as feature benefit. What the features are, what it is, and what the benefits are. And sometimes people don't care. They'll just do what you tell them. But oftentimes they appreciate, and sometimes people ask, well, why are we doing this? So it's important to know and explain what something is and why they're doing it and the benefits, maybe 1 or 2 benefits of them doing a particular exercise, just so that they can have a little bit more confidence in you and in the exercise and in knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it. Number 9, this is a concept that I did not learn until later on in my training career at Anytime Fitness. And that's that you can accomplish more by doing less. Meaning going as hard as you can or pushing someone as hard as they can, sweating as much as they can, getting as sore as they can, and bringing as much intensity as they can does not equal an effective workout. And it does not equal that it's working. Like you'll maybe hear people say that someone is sore or that they're sweating a lot and they're like, oh, well, it means that it's working, or it must mean that it's working. That's false. First of all, everyone has different sweat glands. Let me just say that. Like some people just sweat more than others. But secondly, that's not a good way to measure whether or not a lift or an exercise or a workout is effective. I've learned that it's important to establish good form and good movement first, and then intensity second, which brings me to number 10. When I switched my mindset from an intensity mindset to a practice mindset, this is when I believe that I became just a little bit more of an effective trainer. This is just my opinion. But you do not want to build on improper movement. That's just asking for an injury, and you're not teaching the person or finding out if they are connecting their mind to the muscles that they're supposed to be using. You're not helping them with technique and skill, because that's going to matter more, especially in the future, so that you don't injure someone, so that they can build upon that with maybe intensity, but also weight. So form first, intensity second. You can make something more challenging simply by slowing it down and really focusing on the muscles of the movement, focusing on your body. And you would be surprised how much more challenging it can be when you just slow it down. I learned later on that you don't need to kill your body in order to have a good, effective workout. And I kind of learned that through my own experience as well, not just as a trainer, but working out for myself. Number 11, how you explain an exercise matters. And you can over-explain an exercise. Oftentimes, I have still done that, even towards the end of me training at Anytime Fitness. I like to over-explain things, maybe over-cue, but then that can cause and create confusion, and people won't remember everything. I've learned a good way to do this for me when I'm explaining an exercise is to show the start position, the movement, and the end position. Maybe one cue, one or two cues, and then they do it. You look at their form, correct anything if you need to, and then the second or third set, add another cue that they can focus on. So, hey, Sally, this set, I want you to focus on squeezing your glutes or something that you just haven't said yet so that it's not too much. And you have to know the person. You have to know where they are at in their fitness journey, whether they're just starting or maybe they have some experience. Maybe you've been working with them for a while. That all matters as well. I've also learned that it's important to explain the purpose or the goal of either the exercise or the workout. Let's say it's a class or a session. Explaining the purpose behind it can change how they work out entirely. I would sometimes show the right way, then the wrong way, or a wrong way, and then the right way again. So it's a right, a wrong, a right in a specific exercise. And I want to incorporate all of those in one for what I just talked about. Maybe choose one time, the other the next time, and see what works for you. Number 12. This is one that Kiana actually told me within the past couple months, actually, when you are doing a RDL, so a Romanian deadlift, a stiff leg deadlift, and really, I think you can do this whenever you're doing like a conventional deadlift too, but thinking about separating the floor with your feet as you go down. And this is more of an advanced one, especially if you already have the form down, the hip hinge down, if you know how to do that. This is kind of a second or third advanced cue that I could give someone. Separating the floor with your feet as you go down. I noticed when I did that, I engaged my hamstrings, my legs, my glutes in a whole different way that I had never felt before. So it changed the exercise completely, and it made the exercise just that much more effective. These next few are pretty quick, just some cues that I remembered as I was taking these notes that I thought were pretty impactful for me. So number 13, that is to lead with your palms or your wrists as you do a bicep curl. I noticed that when I did not say that, people would curl their wrists inward towards them versus leading with their palms. So just so that they would engage their biceps muscles a bit more instead of trying to get the weight up with using their wrists or their hands. Hopefully that makes sense. Probably easier to see in person. But leading with your wrists versus curling your wrists. Number 14, engaging your lats while you're doing a hamstring curl. And also, so this is more so gonna work best with a line leg curl machine. Normally there's going to be handles that you can hold on to, but not just simply holding on to the handles, but really actively thinking about engaging your lats, because your lats are ultimately attached to your hamstrings, which, I mean, everything's interconnected, but you can just make the exercise a bit more effective by doing that. This is an extra one that I'm going to throw in because I just thought of it. And that's that when people are doing a bridge, like when you're on your back and feet are on the ground, feet are planted to the ground, when someone lifts up their hips, don't just simply lift your hips, but also tell them to actively squeeze their hamstrings and their glute muscles. Because if you try this for yourself, you could lie down on the ground, lift your hips up to the bridge position, and back down. It's not really doing anything. But if you can really actively think about and engage your muscles so you lift up from your hips up off the ground, squeeze not just your butt together, but also your hamstrings. I remember when I did this myself and I was like, holy shit, this is completely different. Again, it changes the exercise. And also to not lift up as high as you can. There's no need to arch your back, but keep the spine at a neutral position. And then moving again from your hamstrings and your glutes. Okay, moving on to number 15. A lot of times people will, especially if they have weak back muscles, they will hunch their shoulders to their ears. So a simple cue that you could give is shoulders down and back. Number 16, and I think I have 20 of these, 19 or 20. I just like to number things personally when I'm trying to go through like my notes or when I'm listening to people. Helps me to keep things organized a bit. Okay, number 16, the importance of an assessment. It's super important to have something that you are assessing, whether it is a correctional-based exercise, maybe it's posture, maybe it is doing the FMS, so if you're familiar with that. If you get certified in NASM, then you'll know what this is, but it's the functional movement screening. And we did at Anytime Fitness 3 of the movement patterns, but I believe there's at least 5 or 6. So we did the overhead squat, the lunge, and the shoulder mobility, and it's important to see how people's bodies move. So that way you're not just throwing random exercises at them that they should not be doing. If I have someone come in and I just give to them to do a deadlift or a kettlebell swing, if I don't know how their body moves, how am I going to know what exercise to prescribe to them? If they can't do a hip hinge, like a basic hip hinge, they should not be doing a kettlebell deadlift. They shouldn't be doing any kind of deadlift. And they should definitely not be doing any sort of swing. You must properly progress someone. Plus, you need to know medical history, injuries, and also, of course, knowing what their goals are. Why are they hiring you? Getting to know them a bit. Not just that they want to lose weight, but why do they want to lose weight? What's going to change in their day-to-day life? And you can have multiple things that you are assessing. I'd also encourage something that shows muscle versus body fat, not just the scale number, not just their body weight scale number. So you can assess that way. You can assess with measurements, pictures, taking note of how they feel before they start working with you and during their exercises. And then midway and after, you can assess a specific workout for a certain amount of time or just specific exercises. But something so that you do every now and then, every whatever it is, 2 months, 3 months. So that way you can look back and say, this is where you started. This is where you are now. This is what we have to change moving forward. This is what we have to work on moving forward. This is what we have to do different moving forward. But it's important to have some sort of assessment along the way. Number 17, 18, and 19 are extremely important to me because I kind of stumbled upon asking these questions randomly. I don't really know how they came to me, but I found that it helped me tremendously as a trainer because then I knew if someone could maybe go up in weight or they needed to go down in weight, or I need to progress in exercise or give them some sort of regression. So the first one is asking, could you easily do 5 more? Or could you easily do 10 more? Because if I know the type of workout I'm giving them, if I know their rep range, and I ask this question, I know if they should maybe go up or down or stay the same weight. As a trainer, it helps me to gauge where they're at and where I can maybe push them a little bit more with their weight. Because oftentimes when someone's lifting or doing an exercise, you can most of the time, easily tell if it's too heavy or not. But this is just a question that you can ask to get more clarity and get more information. The next one, number 18, you could ask, was it light, medium, or heavy weight to you? And then they'll tell you. Number 19, asking, where do you feel it? This was a game changer question in my experience. Because if I'm having someone, let's say they're doing, this is one of my favorite ones to ask for this question, this exercise, is an anti-rotation. So if you have a cable, you're doing anti-rotations in the midsection, the torso. If I ask them that question, they say, I don't feel it, or I felt it in my arms, then I can explain to them, first of all, I'm not going to be the one to say, did you feel it blank? Did you feel it in your midsection? Did you feel it? I'm not going to ask, did you feel it, and point to wherever I wanted them to feel it, because maybe they'll lie and say, yes, that's where I felt it, just to say it. But if I ask them, where did you feel it? Then they'll tell me where they felt it, instead of me asking where they felt it, but then also kind of subconsciously telling them where they should feel it. So back to that anti-rotation. If they tell me a spot where they shouldn't feel it, or not the answer I was looking for, then I can really give them cues to help them engage the muscles that they should be using and working and feeling. And I'll oftentimes say, okay, well, yes, you should feel it in your lower body, you'll feel it in your upper body, but here's what I really want you to focus on this time. I want you to focus on someone is about to punch you in the stomach, tighten your core, not just suck in, but tighten your core and use your core as you rotate. And that will oftentimes make a huge difference for that specific exercise, because if someone's just using their arms, not engaging their core, then they will feel it in their arms and not their core. So by me explaining to use your core, think about using your core or this spot where I point to, and use that to turn, then when they do it, they'll say, oh my gosh, yep, I feel it now. So instead of upping the weight, I just had their focus shift from not focusing on the muscle group to focusing on it. And maybe you'll need to up the weight, but oftentimes you just need to change their focus during that specific movement. And a lot of times, people might be doing the movement and it might look right, but them feeling and engaging where they need to is a whole different story. Again, going back to that bridge example, if you just lie on the ground and you do your bridge, but you're not engaging any muscles, you're just doing the movement, you won't really feel anything working. But when you actively lift up using and squeezing your butt muscles and your hamstrings, maybe you're tensing your arms, your hands, it becomes a whole different exercise, a whole different movement. Again, you could even try this without using weights, but if you're standing in one spot and you're just moving your arms overhead, like a shoulder press, but you're not really doing anything, you're just doing the movement, that's completely different than when you ground your feet, you grab the floor with your toes, you're tightening your core muscles, you're squeezing your butt and your hamstrings and your quads, and you're squeezing your hands like you're holding weights. And then you press overhead, pretend like I'm doing this with you, so that's why I kind of sound weird, but then you're pressing overhead, create your own resistance, and pause the top and hold and squeeze, and then back down. It becomes a whole different exercise. And same is true for when someone is using weights or cables or a machine or just body weight. Your technique and skill determines what you get out of the lift or the exercise or the movement. And the way that you convey that message to your client matters, and helping them to understand that and helping them to maximize the exercise using technique and skill is a skill set in itself. And it's something that I am also continuously learning to get better at, because I'm definitely not perfect at it, and I could always learn more and do better. But I've learned that it is an important skill to have and to always keep practicing. And number 20, something that I learned that it's important to know as a trainer is to not just know your client and get to know your client, but ask them and get a gauge on how they're feeling for that day. How much sleep did they get? What is their stress level like? How much water have they had? How much food have they had? And what did they eat before they worked out? If it's a female, are they on that time of the month? All of these things are going to play a role in that specific workout. Where's their headspace? Where's their mental health? Again, all of these things are going to play a role in that workout for the day. And then I know for myself, should I push them a little bit more, or should I maybe take it back just a little bit and have more of a recovery-based workout? Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I hope these tips helped you, give you some insight, give you some new perspective and things that you can take with you when you begin to train, or maybe you are currently training and there is one or two things that you've never thought about before and that you can implement as well. Coach collaboration can be powerful, even if it's from and between non-coaches and trainers. We can all learn from each other, and I think it's important to have that open mind. So thank you for sticking with me. And I almost forgot, but if you're kind of on this question of if you should train, or if you think maybe you would like it, you're thinking about getting certified, you're thinking about taking up a certain training job, part-time, full-time, whatever it may be, here are some things to consider. First, I would encourage you to ask the question, would you regret it? Would you regret not giving it a try? If the answer is yes right away, well, you already have your answer. But some other things to consider and try out would be to make a list of pros and cons. And if you're not sure if you would regret it or not, either way, whether you enjoy it or not, you'll learn a lot. You will learn if you'll actually enjoy it and like it or not. And you'll be challenged in ways that will only grow you. I know for myself, not only was I challenged and I grew in my training skills, talking to people and coming up with different cues of teaching someone how they can connect their mind to whatever muscle they're using, or teaching them different body movements. But I also learned a lot about people and how to communicate to people. And then also take into consideration everything else that you have on your plate. Do you have another full-time job? Are you in school? Like, do you have a family? What else do you have going on? Because you don't want to put too much on your plate, and maybe you'll find that you need to drop something, whether it's the training or something else in your life. But just make sure and be careful to not put too much on your plate, and set boundaries. Make sure that you can still take time and make time for yourself. If it's a part-time thing, you can also ask them how many hours they're wanting to work, what the flexibility is like, and just what they would expect from you. But overall, I think the biggest question you can ask is, would you regret it? And make that pros and cons list. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening, staying with me, and I hope that you have a great rest of your Day Night Week weekend. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.